Hi yogi friends, Cathy here. Today's practice is one for those days when you feel low energy and you'd like to get a little energy boost, but it's also going to be kind of low to the floor. So it's for those days when you just don't feel like doing much, but you're motivated enough to get to the mat, which is awesome. So let's come on, sit in your easy seat. We'll get started here. Let's first close the eyes and really settle into your comfortable, easy seat, your Sukhasana. Notice the legs, let them ground down into the surface beneath you. Notice the heaviness of the legs, the bum, the feet on the floor or on the mat. And draw attention to the length and strength of your spine from the base of the tailbone all the way up the back, the neck, right out the crown of the head. Feel yourself maybe grow a tiny bit taller with this awareness of the spine. Let the shoulders relax away from the ears here. And then draw your attention to your breath. Just noticing how the body moves with each inhale and how it moves with each exhale. Just following the breath from its beginning all the way to the top of the breath at the middle, and then following it all the way down to the end of the exhale. Let's take a big full belly breath, really expanding the abdomen, and on the exhale we'll chant Om together. And allow the breath to just settle into a natural and easy pattern. And when you feel ready, go ahead and open the eyes. And let's come into a tabletop position here to start today. Coming onto the hands and the knees, making sure that the wrists are right below the elbows, elbows right below the shoulders. If the wrists are at all irritated or talking to you, then go ahead and make a fist and come on to the space between the top knuckle and the middle knuckle. And you can rest the weight there to protect your wrists. Otherwise, come with the base of the palms down and really grip into the fingertips to make spider-like hands. Knees beneath the hips, feet behind the knees. Lengthen out through the crown of the head and through the tailbone and draw the navel up toward the spine to support the low back. So we get a good foundation here before we start any movement. And then on your next on your next inhale, go ahead and drop the belly down toward the floor and raise the crown and the tail, coming into a cow position here and holding here for a moment, just noticing that opening in the front of the body. Pressing into the base of the palms on an exhale, draw the navel toward the spine as you curve the spine toward the ceiling, and hold here just a moment. And again, really pressing into the base of the palms, the tops of the feet and the knees so that we can feel that opening in the back. On your next inhale, let's drop the belly and let's continue in this cow and cat movement a couple of times. And then we'll move on to our next poses. Let's do one more full cycle of cat and cow. And this time come back to a neutral spine first in this tabletop. And then we're going to bring the hips back toward the heels, coming into a child's pose. So rest the forehead either down on the floor, on a blanket, or on a block. If you don't have blocks handy here, At the moment, you might want to pause the video and grab those because they will probably be handy later. If you don't have blocks, no sweat. If you want to use something in place of blocks, really thick books can also be helpful, or other props that you may find handy around the house. If you don't have yoga blocks, that's a-okay. Relax the whole body into this child's pose here, really letting go. The only effort should be to release everything here. We're letting gravity do the work. Feeling the compression in the hips. Feeling that weight of the head resting on the forehead. Allowing the arms to completely sink into the mat surface. And from here, we're going to come up onto the forearms first. And we're going to kind of drop the belly here. So we're coming into a bit of a cow. We're going to keep the belly dropped as we press into the base of the palms, coming into that full cow position. Curve the spine into cat, and then stay into that cat back as you bring the hips back toward the heels to child's pose again. So this is a moving cat-cow. As we come forward, we drop the belly. Then we'll raise the spine toward the ceiling into a cat, and then keep that cat curve of the back as we come down into child's pose. So we're slowly moving from cow as we come forward with the weight into cat as we press back with the hips. So just continue this movement at whatever pace is most comfortable for you. One tip here is that when you are coming forward onto the forearms first, dropping the belly, pressing into the base of the palms, keep those elbows close to the body. We don't want them poking out toward the sides of our mat. We want to keep them close to our ribs so that they're in the same plane with the shoulders and the wrists. Continue this moving cat-cow for 2 more rounds. And then we'll come back up to our tabletop. And from here, we're going to curl the toes under. Move the palms forward 1 palm's length if it is helpful for you as you come into a down dog. That's where we're headed next. So curl the toes, lift the hips up, press the heels toward the mat, walk the feet a bit, pedaling, bending one knee as you straighten the opposite leg. And keep that spider grip in the hands. Work to get the head in position so that the biceps are on either side of the ears. And keep a flat back here. Allow the crown of the head to reach toward the front edge of your mat. And that will also allow the shoulders to relax away from the ears, and the shoulder blades will sort of slide down the back just a bit. So this is a real lengthening pose in the whole body. Let's bring the feet to stillness if they aren't already. And just hold here in your down dog, feeling the strength in your legs, in your arms, in your hands. Noticing the length and strength of your spine. Draw the navel up and draw the low ribs in a bit. And then we'll walk the feet forward, coming into a forward fold. Take your time getting there. And once you get into your forward fold, go ahead and bend the knees as much as you need. We're going to sway a little from side to side. Notice how the head feels right now as you get some extra blood flow with the head in this inverted position. You might make some very small, gentle circles with the head, with the crown of the head. One direction and then the other. Just allowing a little release of tension there in the neck. And then you can rock a tiny bit forward on the toes, or onto the balls of the feet rather, not all the way onto the toes. And then back into the heels, just feeling that sensation. And we're going to come into a halfway lift. So lift up so that the crown is sticking right out in front. The hands have come up to the hip creases. Lift the shoulders and the elbows slightly toward the ceiling. And feel the length out the crown of the head and out the tailbone. And take the heels, and as if you're going to try to tear your mat apart, pushing the heels away from each other. You'll really feel some opening here between the sits bones. And just hold here, drawing navel up again to support the low back. And then we'll slowly fold back down. This time we'll roll up to a tall mountain, raising the arms up over the shoulders. Really feeling the full inhales and exhales here. Taking a moment to engage the thighs, the lower abdomen, the pelvic floor. Lifting tall through the crown, and then taking a tiny upper back bend here. Just the upper portion of the back. And from here, we'll dive back down into our forward fold. Let's take another halfway lift of whatever height you would like. If you want to go ahead and come all the way up to this 7 shape, you can. You can also leave the hands on the thighs, on the shins, on the floor. The goal here is to keep a flat back. And then you can fold back down. Let's roll back up to mountain once more, lifting arms up above shoulders. And this time we're going to make goalpost arms. So we're opening the elbows 90 degrees. I'll turn to face you so you can see. And then from there, we're actually going to press, only if this feels good in the shoulders, we're going to press the palms, the backs of the palms, and the elbows just back behind the shoulders a bit. So you can feel some opening in the front of the chest there. You can feel the shoulder blades pinching together a little closer. Then bring those palms and elbows forward again. And then we'll lift the arms back up overhead and take our forward fold once more. Let's take one halfway lift here. And then we'll fold back down. And we're going to take our left foot, take the left toes, reach them as far back as you can. Lower down onto the toes and then lower that back heel. I'm sorry, back foot. You're lowering onto the top of the foot, not onto the heel. If you have blocks and you'd like to bring them in here or any other prop that allows the hands to reach the surface beneath you a little easier, go ahead and grab those. It's also fine to bring the fingertips down as we're in this low lunge and just use the fingertips to support you. We do want this right knee to be right over the right ankle to give us a good foundation. And if you need to open it just a little bit wider so that the legs are a little more like in line as railroad tracks, so you have a little wider stance, you can do that too. I do like having the blocks just to allow me to really lengthen up tall in my spine. Think of pulling this right hip back just a hair while you press the left hip flexor forward. Again, just a hair, and you'll notice that sort of brings the pelvis into alignment. You can put the hands on the hips if you like. You can bring the hands to the top of the knee. If that feels steady, go ahead and bring the left arm up over the left shoulder. And if that feels steady, go ahead and bring the right arm up over the right shoulder. Lengthening tall through the crown here. You probably feel that right leg getting a little tired. You can also open the arms wide here, lengthening out and twisting the torso toward the right-hand side of the room. We're really asking a lot of the right leg here, so it's probably getting a little tired. That's okay. And then if you'd like to add one more arm movement, you can lower the right arm back toward this left thigh, lifting the right arm up over, the left arm up over the left shoulder. Getting the rights and lefts confused. Let's cartwheel the arms all the way back down. And then we will come into a runner's stretch. So we're going to bring the weight of the hips back over the back knee. If you do have props, you may want to move them back a bit. Roll onto the heel of the right foot. And we're straightening the right leg a bit. We do still have a little bit of a bend here in the knee. And we'll lengthen tall again through the spine, keeping a flat back. And this left hip, we want to keep it in the same plane with the left knee, so that if you were up against the wall, the knee and the hip would be in line with one another. They could both touch the wall. And then we're going to roll through, coming back into the low lunge, just rolling onto the sole of that right foot. And then we'll roll back again, coming back into our runner stretch. So we're just continuing to open up the front of that left hip, the hip flexor, the back of the right hip, and also the hamstring all the way down to the heel, the Achilles, right through the calf. So we're really opening up the whole leg here on both sides once we complete our practice. And this time, let's do one more. We'll end up in our low lunge here. And we're going to take the left palm and place it down about 6 inches inside the right foot. And let's take a twist. Draw the right hand across the outside of the right calf and then lengthen it up through the fingertips right out toward the ceiling, right above the shoulder. And then we'll lower that hand down. Come on and bring the blocks out on either side. And we're going to come into our down dog again. So we can come to tabletop first and then come back to our down dog. Go ahead and pedal the feet here. Get a strong down dog foundation, gripping into the fingertips so we have spider hands, flattening the back, allowing space between shoulders and ears. And when you feel settled, drawing navel to spine, ribs drawn in. Just hold here for a moment. Maybe even close the eyes, resting into our down dog here. Feeling that opening and lengthening in the backs of the legs. Let's walk forward to our forward fold. And sway a bit here again from side to side. Take our halfway lift. Forward fold. Roll up to mountain. Take that little back bend at the top. And then forward fold again. Halfway lift. Forward fold. Roll up to mountain. Let's take those goalpost arms again, opening through the chest. If it feels good for you, pulling the elbows and the hands back just a bit to open up in the front body some more. Bringing hands and elbows into alignment with the shoulders to raise the arms back up overhead. And let's take our forward fold again. One more halfway lift here. And forward fold. This time we'll take the right toes, lengthen them back as far as we can and lower down onto that right knee. If you want to grab your props and bring them in, you can. If you don't have props, what we want to work toward is a flat back here. We want to try to avoid the hunchback. So we want to lengthen out through the crown. And it might mean that just the fingertips get to the floor, or maybe even that you need to come up with hands on the knee in order to have that flat back. That's just what we're aiming toward. Again, left knee right over the left ankle. Lengthen up through the crown. Feel the energy rising. And hold here for a moment. Again, pull that left hip back a tiny bit while you press this right hip forward a tiny bit. If you're ready to bring the hands up to the left knee, go ahead and do that. You can also bring the right arm up over the right shoulder, and if that feels steady, the left arm up over the left shoulder. At any point, if it feels unsteady, go ahead and bring the hands back down to the knee or back down to the floor or your props. If the arms are up overhead and you want to go ahead and open them off to the left, open the torso off to the left, twisting toward the left, opening both the right and the left arm out from the shoulders. You might feel that this leg feels a little different than the other one. Usually we're a little stronger on one side of the body than the other. And then if you want, go ahead and lift that front arm up, lower this back arm down, and feel that lengthening. And then we'll cartwheel the arms back down. And we'll come into our runner's stretch. So rolling onto the heel of the left leg. If you have props, go ahead and bring them back. Otherwise, you'll walk the hands back a bit. Coming into your runner's stretch. Again, working toward a flat back here. Lengthening out through the crown. Bringing the nose, or actually bringing the toes to point toward the nose on that left leg. Keeping a little bend in the left knee. And bringing the right hip in the same plane with the right knee. And then let's roll forward onto that left foot. Sole of the foot comes down flat into our low lunge. We'll rock back into our runner's stretch. So just continue to move forward into your low lunge and back into your runner's stretch. And keep the pace at one that is comfortable for you and also allows you to keep your alignment in check. And take note of how it feels to move through these poses and any places where you just need to realign. And let's come forward into that low lunge once more. Bring the blocks off to the side this time. And we'll plant the right hand down about 6 inches inside the left foot. Take the left hand outside the left ankle. And we're going to draw it across the leg and straight up out above the left shoulder. Keeping the crown of the head as an extension of the spine here. We don't want the head to drop toward the floor. Sometimes it has a tendency to do that. Then we'll bring that left hand down, framing the foot. Let's come up onto the back toes, and we're going to bring the left foot back to meet the right into a plank pose. Now you can stay here in a full plank or go ahead and bring the knees down into a half plank. Either one is just fine. We're going to lower down to the belly, but we want to keep the elbows super close to the body as we bend them and lower our torso down to the mat. And from here, I'm going to take one quick minute to rest, bringing the hands right below the forehead and making a little pillow for the forehead there. You can make a triangle shape between the thumbs and the forefingers. And just breathe here and notice on the inhale how the belly presses into the mat as the abdomen expands and how everything contracts and sinks into your mat when you exhale. And lift the forehead just slightly. Bring the hands right beneath the shoulders. We're going to take a baby cobra here. So first of all, let's bring the legs close together so the big toes can touch each other. Engage the inner thighs, backs of the thighs, the pelvic floor, and the glutes a bit, pressing the pubic bone into your mat. And now engage the upper back muscles to raise the head and the chest off your mat. There really shouldn't be a lot of effort in the hands. You might even be able to lift the hands off your mat. And then we'll lower back down. This time we'll take a little bit higher cobra, so we will need to press a little more into the base of the palms. Still engaging all those same muscle groups. We'll just lift up, keeping the elbows super close to the ribs. Lift up only to where the belly button is maybe an inch or two off the mat, and then we'll slowly lower back down. Now from here, we're going to come all the way over onto our backs. Go ahead and bring the knees in toward the chest. Give them a little bit of a hug and rock a bit from side to side, feeling that little bit of massage in the low back and the upper hips. Let's extend the left leg, keep that right knee toward the chest. Give it a little bit more of a hug in toward the chest. And we're going to engage the abdomen, the pelvic floor, and the muscles of the chest. And we're going to lift the nose toward the ceiling first, and then we'll bring the nose to point toward the knee and hold here for just a moment. If this is ever too much for the neck, bring the fingertips behind the head. Let's lower the head gently back down. And we're going to extend that right leg now. Bring the left knee in toward the chest. Give it a bit of a hug. And again, we're going to engage the abdominals, the pelvic floor, the muscles of the chest. And we're going to lift the nose toward the ceiling first, and then bring the nose to point toward the knee. And again, if it's a lot for the neck, go ahead and bring the fingertips behind the head and just keep the elbows nice and wide. As you hold there, you might feel a little shake when the body's building strength. Go ahead and gently lower the head down again. Bringing both knees so that they point toward the ceiling. The soles of both feet are resting on your mat. We're going to rock the knees over to one side and just let them hang out there for a minute. You'll be rolling onto the outer edge of one foot, the inner edge of the other foot. And then we'll come back to center and we'll roll over toward the other side, dropping the knees and holding there for a moment, feeling that bit of rotation in the pelvis and the hips. And let's come back to center. And now we'll windshield wiper the knees back and forth from side to side, slowly, but in a continuous movement rather than resting on one side. And then as you even things out, go ahead and bring the knees to point toward the ceiling once again. We're going to bring the right ankle to rest just above the left kneecap. So you'll have a bent right knee, bent open toward the side. We're going to take both hands and thread them around behind that left thigh. So you'll bring that left leg up toward you. Use the right elbow, if it feels good, to press against the right thigh. And go ahead and flex both of your feet. And you can pull the left thigh a little closer to the body, possibly. But we do want to pay attention to the tailbone. It should be pointing toward that wall in front of you, or the front edge of your mat. So if when you pull the leg toward you, your pelvis tilts, then just allow that left thigh to Move a little bit further away from the body so the tailbone can still point toward the front edge of your mat. If you want to add a little more opening on that right hip, you can also tilt the body toward the left-hand side of the room until you come to rest on this left elbow and really press out through the tailbone and out, down through the hips toward that front edge of your mat, keeping the right elbow on the right thigh. You'll feel some more opening there. Remembering to breathe whenever there's any tension. We want to breathe into that tense space, scoop up the tension with the breath, and then exhale it back out. Let's roll back over onto our backs and lower both soles of the feet down again. This time we're going to bring the left ankle to rest right above the right kneecap. And we'll do the same figure 4 on the opposite side. So wrap the hands around the back of the right thigh. Flex both of the feet. If it feels good and allows the tailbone to stay pointing toward the front of your mat, then go ahead and pull the right thigh closer to the torso, pressing the left elbow into the left thigh if that feels good. Notice how it feels different on this side of the body to be in this position. And if you want to add a little more opening in that left hip, you can also tilt over toward the right-hand side of the room until you can rest on that right elbow, pressing the hips and the tailbone toward the bottom of your mat will intensify the opening there also. Breathing fully and completely. Closing the eyes if you like to really feel into the sensations. Anytime in your practice that you feel like closing the eyes to really be focused inward, go ahead and do that. And now we'll roll back over onto the back, bringing both soles of the feet to rest on your mat. Let's do one bridge here, but before we lift right up, go ahead and squeeze the feet as if you're pulling the toes closer to the heels. Engage from the arches of the feet all the way up into the pelvic floor, inside the legs. And then we'll start to lift the hips up slowly. And hold there just a moment in your bridge. And then we'll slowly lower down one vertebra at a time. And once the hips reach the ground, we'll release all those muscles from the pelvic floor all the way down to the feet and then extend the feet out into our Shavasana. We're going to be here for several minutes in Shavasana, a good solid 5 minutes. If for some reason you simply must end your practice before that time, then go ahead and do so. I encourage you, if you have the ability to stay here for the 5 minutes of Shavasana, I really encourage you to do that because it allows your body to soak up all the benefits of this practice that you have just completed, or all the poses, movements that you've completed. We're still in practice, even in Shavasana. So I'm going to quiet down here. I want you to focus inward. Focus on bodily sensations. Let any thoughts just pass on through without attachment or judgment. I'll let you know when it's time to come back to full awareness. Just be and breathe. Go ahead now and start to move the fingers and the toes a bit. You might want to make some circles with your wrists and with your ankles, one way and then the other. You may want to take a full body stretch here, pressing out through the palms, up above your head, and stretching out through the heels of the feet at the end of your mat. Really stretching the whole body. Let's roll over now onto one side. Use the arm to pillow your head and bend your knees gently into a loose fetal position. Go ahead and keep the eyes closed just as long as you can. And then we'll use the hands to press us back up to a seated position. Again, we'll work to keep the eyes closed here as we come into our Sukhasana, our comfortable, easy seat. Go ahead and settle into that position and just notice how it feels to sit in Sukhasana now versus when we first came to practice. Take another moment also to notice if there's been any shift in your state of mind, the amount of energy you may feel, any change in the state of the emotions. Notice bodily sensations that may be different. Notice the length and strength of your spine. Notice how your breathing pattern may have changed. And let's bring our hands together at prayer position at the heart. Take a big full belly inhale here, and on the exhale we'll chant Om together. Bring the hands so that the thumbs will rest on your forehead. May we have peace in our thoughts. Thumbs resting now at the lips. May we have peace in our words. And finally, back down at the heart space. May we have peace in our hearts. The light in me recognizes and honors the light in you. And I bow as I say, Namaste. Thank you so much for being here to practice with me today. I really hope that this practice has brought some peace and tranquility into your day. Hope that it has boosted your energy a bit and that you can carry that energy, that peace, and then tranquility with you wherever you go today, sharing it with the people and the spaces that you encounter. And I can't wait to practice with you again here. If you would like to keep up with our practices as they're posted, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and click the bell to receive notifications each time a new video is available for you to practice. Thank you again for being here to practice today. I wish you well. Namaste.